Good evening, I'm Steve Hensley. Vaccination clinics are being held in New York's Rockland County after the first case of polio in the U.S. in nearly a decade has been reported. Health officials are urging anyone who has not been vaccinated to get protected there against the highly contagious disease. CBS's Astrid Martinez has more.
Carol Messler just received her protection against polio at this Rockland County vaccination clinic.
I don't remember if I ever had a polio vaccine, and I felt that I needed to be safe.
Health officials say an unvaccinated young adult from the area recently contracted polio. The virus can infect the person's spinal cord and can lead to disability and death.
It seeks out certain cells and it infects and destroys them. If the cells are destroyed, the muscles cannot move.
The patient developed paralysis. The State Department of Health and the CDC confirmed the virus was transmitted from a person who received the oral polio vaccine used in other countries.
We've seen an occasional outlying case of someone that's what we call a vaccine-related case of polio.
The oral vaccine is no longer used in the U.S. Polio was eliminated here in 1979. Dr. William Schaffner with Vanderbilt University Medical Center says the risk to the general public is essentially zero.
We have very, very high vaccination rates in the United States against polio, well over 90%.
Rockland County was at the heart of the 2018-2019 measles outbreak. Hundreds of cases were reported in religious communities with low vaccination rates.
We have communities scattered across the country that are under-vaccinated, and these diseases continue to exist in other parts of the world.
Dr. Schaffner says it's critical everyone stay up to date on all vaccinations. Astrid Martinez, CBS News, Pomona, New York.
The last polio case in the United States was in 2013 when a 7-month-old who had recently moved to the U.S. from India was diagnosed in Texas. That baby also had the type of polio found in the live form of vaccine used in other countries. Well, countries around the globe are still experiencing outbreaks of monkeypox. The CDC reports the virus, a rare disease caused by infection, was discovered in 1958. The first human case was recorded in 1970, but prior to the 2022 outbreak, almost all of the cases were in people who had links to international travel in countries where the disease commonly occurs or through imported animals. The CDC reports the virus can be spread from the time symptoms start until the rash has fully healed and a fresh layer of skin has formed.
Well, what we know about it is that we know what the etiologic agent is, which is very different from my experience in the early 80s with HIV, which we did not know we were dealing with. Number 2, we have diagnostics. Number 3, we have vaccines. And number 4, we have antivirals. The challenge now is to get those interventions in an expeditious manner to the people who need them.
As of yesterday, the CDC reports there have been 4 cases of monkeypox in Kentucky. New York has reported the highest number of cases in the U.S. at 830. Well, it seems clear that the new 3-digit suicide prevention lifeline is much needed. New data shows the 988 number received more than 96,000 calls, texts, and chats during the first week it launched. The volume of people reaching out was up about 45% from the week before the transition and up 66% from the same time last year. The lifeline used to be 1-800-273-TALK, but it transitioned to 988 on July 16th in an effort to make it easy to remember. The nonprofit Vibrant Emotional Health operates the lifeline on behalf of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. More than 160 million women worldwide cannot get the contraception they need. A new study published Thursday in the British medical journal Lancet looks at statistics from 2019, the most recent available data. The authors studied women between the ages of 15 and 49 in 204 countries and territories. Women ages 15 to 24 had the greatest unmet need for contraception. Globally, the greatest need for birth control was reported in sub-Saharan Africa and South Asia. Abortions are legal in Kentucky for now. A Jefferson Circuit judge has granted a temporary injunction. It stops Kentucky's trigger law banning abortions from going into effect, while a case involving an ACLU lawsuit continues to play out in the courts. Circuit Judge Mitch Perry based his decision off the right to privacy. This afternoon, he granted a temporary injunction against Kentucky's 2 abortion ban laws. Stephanie Parkin, a mom who works in the tech industry, was relieved when she heard the judge's ruling.
You know, throughout my life, I've seen that women who control their reproductive freedom and other people who can have children, they grow stronger families and stronger communities. So, you know, abortion is health care, and we just can't go back.
The ACLU and Planned Parenthood praised the decision, stating that banning abortions would have devastating consequences for Kentuckians. Attorney General Daniel Cameron called the temporary injunction, quote, disappointing, and said he plans to appeal. Michael Johnson is with the Family Foundation, an anti-abortion nonprofit. He feels Judge Perry overstepped his judicial boundaries. We will have more about all of this coming up at 6.
Well, it's quite frankly dangerously hot outside here tonight. We've seen temperatures in the 90s with dew points in the 60s, means it feels closer to 95 or above. And more of that is on the way as we head into the weekend. Outside right now, the sun is shining bright on our old Kentucky home. Plenty of blue sky out there right now. Plenty of hot air continues. 90 degrees right now in Buffalo Mountain here in Perry County. Temperatures remain in the upper 80s and low to middle 90s, mostly low 90s. 92 Manchester and Irvine are warm spots at the moment. Look over, by the way, at Louisville. 97. That air is heading in our direction. It feels like between 95 and 98 in many spots, though a few of our spots are a little cooler thanks to, well, a couple of clouds moving on through. Pinpoint Dopplers, a clean sweep around the mountains. We don't have anything to worry about. Those are all to our north and east. So as we calm down throughout the night, you're definitely going to want to grab that WYMC weather app, especially if you're headed out to whether the North Fork Music Festival, if you're just headed out on the back porch, you're going to need it because it's going to tell you we're in the 90s tonight. The latest heat index values, of course, as well. We're down into the 60s as we wake up on our Saturday morning. The details on the hot weather to come and whether we could see some cooling storms. It's coming up in just a few minutes. Steve?
All right, Evan, thank you. Some bombshell revelations from last night's primetime hearing of the House Select January 6 committee. The panel laid out new evidence that former President Trump watched the violence unfold on television at the Capitol, and yet he chose not to act. CBS's Natalie Brand has more from Capitol Hill.
He betrayed his oath of office and was derelict in his duty.
The January 6 Select Committee laid out its case that former President Donald Trump fueled the crowd and then did nothing to stop the Capitol attack in its early hours.
We have a clear shot if we move quickly. We got smoke downstairs, set by unknown smoke.
The panel played chilling audio of Secret Service agents scrambling to keep then Vice President Mike Pence safe as they feared for their own lives.
There were calls to say goodbye to family members.
The situation was escalating, and it was escalating quickly.
Live and taped testimony from former White House officials detailed efforts within the White House to get the former president to call off his supporters.
That was pretty clear. There needed to be an immediate and forceful response statement, public statement that people need to leave the Capitol now.
Did you ever hear the president ask for the National Guard?
The committee also played never-seen-before outtakes of the former president's video message later that day when he finally urged supporters to go home while at the same time amplifying false claims of election fraud. And this outtake from January 7th showing Mr. Trump's struggle to concede.
This election is now over. Congress has certified the results. I don't want to say the election's over. I just want to say Congress has certified the results without saying the election's over, okay?
I think the president certainly has criminal exposure. I'm not a prosecutor, not DOJ.
The committee says it continues to receive new information and will hold more hearings in September. Natalie Brand, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
Last night's hearing was only the second primetime special of the committee's numerous hearings. A longtime ally of former President Donald Trump has been found guilty of contempt charges for defying a congressional subpoena. Steve Bannon now faces up to 2 years in prison after a jury of 8 men and 4 women found him guilty of refusing to appear for a deposition and refusing to provide documents in response to the January 6 committee's subpoena. Each count carries a minimum sentence of 30 days in jail. Today, a Coral Springs Police Department captain testified in Nicholas Cruz's sentencing trial. Today was day 5 of the proceedings. Cruz was the gunman who fatally shot 14 students and 3 staff members at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida on February 14, 2018. During today's testimony, the captain described what he saw when he arrived.
I observed officers were on scene already, and then as we moved closer to the building, I observed a body lying on the ground outside of the west doors.
After further questioning, he told the lead prosecutor the body was Aaron Feiss, a Stoneman Douglas assistant football coach. He said he checked Feiss's vitals and realized he was dead, and at the time he believed there was a shooter still inside the building, and he went inside. A jury will determine whether Nicholas Cruz will be sentenced to death or life in prison without the possibility of parole. Coming up on Mountain News at 5:30, after battling cancer twice, one 12-year-old in Corbin has a powerful story and his sights set on a powerful political office.
Plus, continue those heat precautions as we head into the weekend because very hot temperatures continue. The latest on the 90s coming up.